Good morning. Welcome to the C-Tax Distributions Town Hall. I'm Patricia Olmstead with the Department of Taxation, and we really thank you for coming out today and joining us, also for joining us on Zoom. We wanted to bring you here today to answer some of the questions that you might have about our modernization project and how distributions are done. Today we'll be going over a few agenda items. Hold on, let's get an agenda up for you. And we'll start with our taxation mission and philosophy, the core NV overview, project Mint overview, which we like to call My Nevada Tax, consolidated tax, C-Tax components, accounting, distributions and timing, the fiscal year 26 schedule of distributions, reports and availability to you, your department resources, and of course at the very end we'll have a Q&A session for everyone in the room, and anyone that is on Zoom, please put your questions in the chat and we will answer those at that time. Now I would like to introduce Patrick Starr. He is the department's enterprise project manager, and he will be telling you a little bit about our mission and philosophy at Taxation.
Thank you, Patricia. Hi, everyone. My name is Patrick Starr. I wanted to speak to you guys a little bit, starting off with our Department of Taxation mission and philosophy. For us, as we have gone into this modernization project for the department, which impacts everybody across the state, I thought it would be important for us to share this with you as we strategize and put our strategized plan forward. So I hate to read slides, but I'm going to. Our mission and philosophy at the Department of Taxation is to provide a fair, efficient, and effective administration of tax programs for the state of Nevada in accordance with applicable statutes, regulations, and policies. To serve the taxpayers and the state and local government entities and enable and recognize department employees are dedicated to the highest standards of professionalism and ethical conduct, committed to consistent, impartial, and courteous service and treatment of our taxpayers, providing resources, training, and support to the employees of the department, and fostering initiative, creativity, and effective performance. The way I speak to my team and about our modernization and what we're doing is, and if you've heard me testify before, it is our job to deploy nothing but excellence for the state. I know that what we're doing currently with this modernization impacts local governments. You guys are at the forefront of our thoughts and what we're doing. And I wanted to make sure and ensure that you understand with the work that we're doing that we have you at the forefront. And I know that it gets frustrating when reporting and things of these natures don't actually come together the way you want them. But this is a partnership. So we're here together with you all. We want to start doing these town halls to enable you to provide feedback for us that we can then configure in our system. Before I go any further, I'm going to pass the mic over to Michelle with Core NV. She's going to speak on the downstream process. So as you know, we bring in the dollars in taxation and then we have to pass it over to another system so that the distribution can occur. So I'll pass it over to Michelle.
Thank you, Patrick. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you. So we have gone live as of yesterday, actually, with our second phase within our phase one of our Core NV project. In January, we actually rolled out the finance-based system for our finance folks here in the state with our general accounting, accounts payable, budget control, and asset management functionalities within the new system. Our vendor is CGI Advantage 4. For those of you who have been around a while, you'll know that back in 1997, we actually adopted and implemented Advantage 2.1 for both our finance and our HR systems. So this is a large leap into Advantage 4, complete different implementation, not an upgrade. And then after January, the project team here at OPM got very busy with planning out the second phase, which is standing up our HRM, Human Resources Management based system. And what we did is we took an MVP approach where we really looked at the functionalities in Advantage 2.1, both on the finance side and the HR side, what was used the most, what was the most important, and we decided to stand up those functionalities first, just based on our legacy systems that weren't doing so well and needed more help. And then the rest of the functions will be in phase 2, as you see on the right side of this slide. So we just stood up the HRM-based system. Our MVP was payroll administration, personnel administration, and position control. And as I said, that was yesterday. At the same time, you can call it a big bang if you want to, but at the same time, we actually stood up another entirely different base system, if you will, for our folks at Nevada Department of Transportation, which is where I am today. We are supporting them with their go live. So we have a small group here this week. I'm helping them with their rollout. So they had their own instance, another Advantage 2.1 instance just for NDOT. And they are now with our Core NV system. And we have an MVP for them as well. We stood up their cost accounting, their accounts receivable, and their agreements. And then we go on to phase 2, which is the rest of the project. And you see a series of functionalities that we'll be rolling out. And that starts actually immediately. We're probably going to roll out, you see down on the left column at the bottom, NeoGov. That is a platform that we contracted with, and they are going to supply our onboarding, our LMS, our recruiting application, and our recruiting, our application process for those who are applying to the state, as well as the onboarding paperwork, and of course the larger LMS for the rest of the state. So I believe that's going first, and phase 2 will roll out all the way through June 30th of 2027. So we're pretty excited to get through all of phase 1 as of yesterday.
Fantastic. Thank you, Michelle. We appreciate that. We asked Michelle from Core NV to come and speak with us this morning and show this slide because of how our systems are related. So I wanted to make sure that everybody understands with these big modernizations that are going on across the state, it's very important that we are in sync at all times. We have APIs and connections that need to be made between those systems to make sure that we have no disruptions in our distributions, that you're able to receive the money that you're supposed to at the time you're supposed to in a timely manner. Thank you. So Project Mint, a couple of years ago when we started this project, we sat down, we looked at the strategic plan, the mission statement from the Department of Taxation. I sat down with my team and we came up with this mission statement for the project. The mission of Project Mint is to modernize the Nevada tax system to serve the needs of the taxpayers in a customer-centric and efficient environment while maintaining the best interest of all Nevadans. Project Mint will provide taxpayers with a more timely, informative, and responsive experience when interacting with the department. Project Mint will also provide department staff with a dynamic platform for workflow automation, reporting, and management capacities that support department processes, including processing returns, collections, audit, revenue accounting, and of course, those distributions. Super important to us. I just want to reemphasize that we're at a point now where when we're looking at quality excellence and that feedback loop, it is important to us on my team that we hear your voice and that we hear your needs, and then we can configure this system to meet those needs. So I want to ensure that we're doing what we can to enable you and to give you the information that you need. So I have a team here that's ready to speak to you about the distributions and everything, but I'm going to ask you to reach out to them, give us your feedback, let us know how the system is working so that we can adapt it and be in a continuous improvement cycle for you. I'm going to hand it over to Deputy Mitchell.
Thank you, Patrick. My name is Jeff Mitchell. I'm a Deputy Director at the Department of Taxation, and it's a pleasure to be with you. We're going to get into the weeds a little bit, but I'm not going to get into the weeds. This is just a real high-level overview of the CTX. Many of you are familiar with it, but kind of setting the groundwork of what we're talking about when we're talking about the CTX. As illustrated by the slide, the CTX was formulated in 1997 as a way to combine the distribution of a couple of different revenue sources. Those revenue sources, as listed below, are the cigarette tax, liquor tax, government service tax, which is often referred to as like car registration, real property transfer tax, basic city-county relief tax, and supplemental city-county relief tax. When we talk about the distribution of these taxes, the first two taxes that I would like to mention are the cigarette and liquor. Those are distributed based upon population. Real property transfer tax and government service tax, those go back to the county of origin. The basic city-county relief tax, if it's an out-of-state transaction, those goes back to the counties based upon population. And if it's an in-state or in-county purchase, those goes back to the county of origin. The complicated distribution is the supplemental city-county relief tax. And that has what we commonly refer to as a first tier and then a second tier distribution. The first tier distribution is determinative first if you're a guaranteed county or a non-guaranteed county. There's about 4 remaining guaranteed counties, and what that means is they receive a base distribution each month, regardless of the sales and the receipts. The remaining amount of tax is then distributed out to the remaining counties. The second tier distribution, that's the distribution from the counties to local government entities, enterprise districts, and special improvement districts. To give a little bit of scale on these different things, the supplemental city-county relief tax, these are rough numbers, but it makes up about 68% of the total distribution. The basic city-county relief tax makes up about 19%. GST is about 10%. SICR and LIG make up less than 1% each of that distribution. And the real property transfer tax, I forget off the top of my head, let me check my notes. It also has a percentage, 2% of the total is attributable to the real property transfer tax. Within this presentation, there is a link out to a much more in-depth presentation that was given by LCB staff at this last session. It's about an hour, hour and a half. It goes into all the different components of first tier, second tier, has some numbers tied to it. It is given by Michael Nakamoto, who is LCB fiscal staff. Absolutely wonderful presentation. But given that I don't want you to be here for an hour and a half listening to it, this was just a basic, real high overview. And I will turn it over to Erica to
Thank you, Jeff. Hi, everybody. My name is Erica Scott. I'm the economist with Taxation. I'm going to be going over the timing of distribution, CTAX distributions, and the reporting schedules based on feedback and questions that we've gotten from local governments. Again, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for all coming out today, and also those of you on Zoom. We've had some communications with quite a few of you, and I just want to say thank you for coming out and letting us present today. So I'm going to go over what we've done in the past out of the old system, the legacy system, and what we've encountered with the Mint system since rollout 1. And then also what you can expect from the agency's upcoming changes after hearing feedback, and also just, going through the project and seeing what we need to change. So what we want to have happen here today, the goal is that you leave here pleased with the resolutions and fully informed on what the department has been doing with the new project. So the next slide, to begin with, I'm going to go over the accounting. There we go. The accounting distribution and timing. So in the previously used legacy system and the prior timing of monthly accounting closes and distributions that occurred in legacy system versus Mint. Prior to Mint rollout 1, the close of accounting and the distributions of tax out of the old system occurred nearly 2 months after the underlying economic business activity or the taxable sales occurred. For example, the sales tax filing period that ended September 30th of 2024 was due at the end of the month of October 2024. Then for the next several weeks, the department would work through any accounting issues like suspended or unallocated payments Then the accounting period was closed November 21st, 2024. And the next day on November 22nd was when the C-tax distribution payments were input into the old system from the controller's office. And that typically took about 3 business days or so. And by that time, we had our C-tax files prepared and distributed out to you all. And then in December, we had rollout 1 with our new system, Mint. Excuse me. And the way the general ledger system was configured by the vendor in the new system automatically closed each accounting period at the end of the month, while some payments for most recent filing periods were still being receipted in by the bank. The effect of this automatic end of the month close and beginning with November 2024 filing period was that revenue distribution amounted to roughly 1/2 of the most recently due filing period. Then beginning with the December 2024 filing period, each revenue distribution amounted to roughly 1/2 of the most recently due filing period plus the other 1/2 of the prior month, the other filing period. And while the intention of the new Mint general ledger accounting close was to more speedily distribute revenue, and it definitely did, this inadvertently removed critical time for the agency to recognize all of the latest filing period payments that were being received within these immediate distributions. And on the next slide, we provided sort of a visual of this. So this first slide is the legacy system prior to Mint. And we give that example of the September 2024 filing period. So we see the taxpayer sales transactions between September 1st through the 30th. Then our accounting close, well, the taxpayer files the return by October 31st. And then taxation's accounting close process occurs right after that, with the final distributions being done around the 22nd and payments settling with local governments around the 25th, at which time our C-tax documents were published on the website. On the next slide, we see the visual of the Mint system with the rollout of December. And again, we see the taxpayer transactions. This example is for February 2025 filing period. The reason I picked that one is because that's sort of when the agency got their schedule down out of the new system it was a full month filing period of 2 split filing periods. And so we see that the transactions for the February sales transactions are occurring 1st through the 28th. Then the taxpayers filed the returns March 31st, and then Mint automatically closed the accounting period on March 31st with the accounting close jobs done by staff on April 1st. Then the C-tax payments were input into the core NV, the new Advantage system, on April 2nd, and staff began compiling the C-tax file. And then the C-tax file was produced and published on the website by April 10th, which by that time local governments had already received payments and were asking about those payments. So you can see the timing issue going on there. So on the next slide, we will go over current issues and concerns that we've heard from local governments that I want to reassure you that we're addressing today. So first, each month of distributed sales and use tax revenue has been roughly half of the last due filing period, plus half of the prior period before that. Fiscal year 2025 accounting close could not be done by the automatic mint system without shorting the fiscal year of 12 full months of filing revenue. So the department had to extend the accounting close to encompass the June 2025 filing period receipts. And with the revenue distributions being split between the last two filing periods, the taxable sales statistics report was not representative of the distributions during that month. The taxable sales statistics report sort of became a standalone report that couldn't be tied directly with one distinct revenue period. And another concern was that the CTAX documents were not being received at the time of the payments that local governments were receiving the payments. So on the next couple of slides, we have some graphics to display what was going on here. So this first graph, we've got the revenue by filing period ratios, and we can see that out of rollout one, we have November making up almost all of the receipts with very few revenue periods being prior. And then those would entail like late filings or any sort of payments that could not be distributed in that month prior. And then we have, beginning with the January filing or revenue period, we have it split. So those were the distributions that were received in January, which shows the filing periods of November and December nearly split in half. And you can see that occurring in every month after Mint Rollout 1, with the exception of the final distribution that we did at the end of the fiscal year, which included the majority of June's filing and then the remainder of May's filing period. So that gave the final distribution in fiscal year 25 of 12 full filing periods, revenue from 12 full filing periods. And on the next graph, we've got the revenue that was distributed. And that graph is to show, in compared to prior fiscal years, the final two prior fiscal years, we see that drop in November, as all of you were feeling, and then at the very end of the fiscal year when we held open that accounting period to make sure that those receipts were received in the fiscal year of 2025. Now, this all brings me to our solutions going forward. So taxation has heard all your concerns and has made significant changes to address all of those concerns and to also make your lives easier. So beginning this month, October 2025, the Mint system accounting period will now close 45 days after a filing period ends. So we have closed the period for August filing on October 15th. Our staff are diligently working today to input those CTAX payments fully representative of the August filing period and some July period that was not received in that last distribution. So this accounting change is to modified accrual, and it does not affect how the taxpayer files, but modifies the timing of the accounting close. And this change is aimed to realign the distributions each month to the most recently due filing period. And with distributable revenue realigned with one distinct filing period, this means that the taxable sales statistics for that most recently due filing period should also realign with distribution amounts. Because of Core NV's system update, taxation and all other agencies were unable to transact in the financial system until October 20th. So that's why this first distribution of the modified accrual is being done now instead of on the 16th or so. And so After October, with each month going forward, the accounting will close after the 15th, with payments received around the third week of each month for CTAX. With the new Mint accounting close change, it is anticipated that this first CTAX distribution payment this week will contain a larger than typical month of revenue, since it will include all of the August 2025 timely filed receipts and some remainder of the July 2025 receipts. And then the distributions set to occur in November 2025 are anticipated to be more of a typical month with the full September 2025 filing period receipts and so on and so forth. The fiscal year 2026 is set to close sales and use tax shortly after August 15th, 2026, and will include 12 full months of filing periods for fiscal year 2026. On the next slide, we show the example of the filing period of September 2025. I didn't want to use August since that's, clearly a one-off with the Core NV update. And so this is what we planned for the next normalized distribution for September's filing period. We see the economic activity occurred through September 1st through the 30th, and then the filing period due at the end of October, which is Friday, and for all of us here, a wonderful Nevada Day, holiday, 3-day weekend. So therefore, this moves the due date to November 3rd, and then the department ends receipts on the 15th. So we close our accounting on the 15th, which is on a weekend this November. So then our staff will then work on the accounting job closes and the revenue distributions November 17th and sometime during that week. To be receiving payments, or possibly the next week, depending on how long those payments it takes for them to settle. The CTAX file should be published on the website and available to your staff by the 20th, which should be around the same times that payments are settling. Department staff don't have control over how long it takes the payments to settle, but I can tell you when we input them into Core NV and when we can publish the CTAX file. On the next slide, we included answers to some other questions you all had about the CTAX remittance description. So on the CTAX distributions, the remittance description will always be the most recently occurring filing period, recently due filing period, excuse me. And so with the exception of that final distribution out of 2025, in hindsight, that one was named July, but we probably should have named it June 2 or some sort of, notification that was actually June filing period receipts for CTAX. But for moving forward, all remittance descriptions will remain the most recently due filing period, meaning that the CTAX payments that you will be receiving this week will have the description of August 2025 filing period. On the next slide, this is just the title slide, just talking about reports and availability. First up, we're going to be talking about the CTAX file. So the goal of the department is to have this available within the week after the accounting period closes, so that the receipts through the 15th of each month will be closed on the 6th, or the jobs will be done on the 16th. And then the payment vouchers will be keyed into Core NV's financial system the day or the following day. And then the review of the financial report before it's published on the website must take place before we publish it. So we will be publishing that document within the third week after distributions occur. Of course, when there's holidays or it lands on the weekend, just be mindful of adding a business day or two to that timeline. And on the next slide, we talk about the taxable sales statistics. I know that we've received quite a few questions about this, and the report is produced out of the Mint system differently than the way it was produced out of the legacy system. And the way it's just based on the way the data is queried in the background. So back in April 2025, the vendor completed the build out of this report, and the department issued a memo explaining the major differences. So I'll go over those differences, but that memo is still available and purposely kept above the taxable sales monthly reports that we release, so that everyone does know that that's a difference from the prior system to the new system. The first major difference is that the legacy taxable sales statistics reported the taxable sales based on when a taxpayer made a payment, either full or partial. And this was not necessarily tied to when the underlying economic activity occurred. Now, granted, the good majority of the revenue for the latest filing period, since the department typically maintains roughly around 96 to 98% collection rate, those taxable sales could be tied heavily to the most recently distributed revenue, but some of these taxable sales were attributed to prior filing periods that were paid late. I list the example here of a late filed and paid March 2024 filing period, paid during the accounting close of June 2024. And the taxable sales from March of 2024 would have been included in June's taxable sales statistics out of the old system. Mint, on the other hand, pulls the taxable sales statistics that were reported by taxpayers only for that specific filing period, whether or not a payment was made with the filing. The example I have here is that taxable sales statistics for June 2025 includes only those sales occurring June 1st through June 30th of 2025, as reported by the taxpayers. So the scenario where the March 2024 filing period was filed and paid late during a June filing period close, these March sales would not affect the June 2025 taxable sales statistics. And the other major difference is that the legacy report was offered as PDF only, which made it difficult for converting the data into a time series for those of you who use those. But the Mint report is now offered in a downloadable Excel format. Another significant change to the legacy, from the legacy system to Mint, is that the legacy system used NAICS codes from the BLS, or Bureau of Labor Statistics, as far back as 2012 issuances. So our legacy system produced NAICS categories from 2012 through 2022. However, Mint allows for only the 2022 NAICS codes, which has eliminated some of the more granular categories to be identified. The BLS changed the NAICS code in 2022 to eliminate identifying categories of non-store versus brick and mortar businesses. And the concordance for a lot of those former 454 grouping of non-store retailers are now in the 455 grouping of general merchandise retailer categories. This is why there was a significant increase in the 455 general merchandise retailer category at the beginning of November 2024 taxable sales statistics report. And at the bottom of this slide, we also note where to locate the memo that the department has issued back in April of 2025. So going forward, we also want to produce these monthly taxable sales statistics at the same time as the CTAX report. So the goal is to run those statistics right at the 15th or the 16th when we're running those other accounting close jobs, so that it is that snapshot of what taxpayers have filed. Granted, this does not necessarily mean that the payment was made, but we have a relatively very high collection rate for most on-time taxpayers. So that will be released around the same time as the CTAX file being published on the website. And the taxable sales statistics will also generally be reflective of the revenue distributions, likely beginning with the September 2025 filing period. We do still have some ongoing work with the vendor for this report, namely the fiscal year-to-date totals. If you add up the monthly totals from the prior release statistics, the fiscal year-to-date does not reflect that total. It's typically much higher, and that is because it's picking up late filers in that snapshot of data. So I'm working on a report with the vendor to memorialize that fiscal year to date, just so as not to cause confusion. But as for right now, it's more of looking at just the fiscal year to date overall of what taxpayers are filing. As time goes on, it should be reflective of what the distributions are occurring in each month. So this was a lot of information. I know I read a lot off of my screen, but that's because I didn't want to misspeak for anything that we've put together today. And I hope I answered the majority of your questions that I've been posed with at the distributions team. And we look forward to improving any accounting and distributions processes made available by our vendor. So with that, I'll hand this back to Patricia to summarize the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. So we really just want to highlight that beginning in October of 2025 for the August 2025 filing period, taxation will begin closing each accounting period after 45 days from the end of the filing period. C-tax payments will be entered in Core NV financial system the third week of every month for the filing period ending roughly 45 days prior. Remittance description will be the most recently due filing period. And report availability will be within a week of the C-tax payments that you receive. We really appreciate all of you for hanging in there with us while we do modernize the system. And we do want to share with you our department resources on the handout that you all picked up this morning. You will have, of course, Kelly Langley, our Supervisor of Local Government Finance, Erica Scott, who just ran us through all of that information, our economist, and Michael Hoffer is our management analyst. He sends me all the reports that I then post online. And of course, I am the Public Information Officer and I'm available via email for any of the questions that you might have, and I can distribute them to the right division and we'll get you those answers. Now we'd like to open the floor for any questions that you may have, and we will try to get answers for you. And if not, we definitely will follow up and get you some answers in the future.
Thank you. You answered the majority of the questions that I had coming in today. I'm Jessica Colvin from Clark County. I have a question specific to July collections. I believe those collections were down 14% and were incomplete. It sounds like, are those going to be included in next month's, or this, I guess, this coming week's payment?
We should have two mics, but that's okay. Yes, so actually I'm trying to pull up my revenue distributed by filing period. I know that that's been very helpful to produce for you all while we were going through that change. I did pull that. I pulled it for the new one though. Sorry about that. Let me find that. And it did include quite a few of the July revenue or filing period. So any timely July filings, there will be some that are included in this distribution just based on that last cutoff of some of those receipts that we distributed in the first period of FY26. So yes, there's going to be some July filers in there.
Sorry for this. I may have misunderstood. I thought that July omitted the real property transfer tax and the GST. Is that inaccurate? So I thought when we received because July was down significantly by 14%. So there was a concern that June was overstated, that maybe we were capturing July receipts into June. I thought that the July collections omitted GST in the real property transfer tax. That may be incorrect, so if we can clarify that. And I was wondering if are those July real property transfer tax, July GST is going to be included in this week's payment with August.
Our distributions team is via Teams right now. He's typing a message, so yeah.
Thank you. I'll respond per Kevin Williams. He stated that he believes that you're referring to the C-tax because of the hack that happened in July. Both GST and RPTT were not initially included in the period and will be included in period 2 because of the hack.
Just one more question. We're trying to compare trends, from month to month. So we're looking July compared to July to see how much of any volatility is due to the system conversion versus a change in the economy. Obviously, we expect that November will see a significant increase compared to last November. But it looks like to me from this presentation that when we get to June of 2026, we're probably going to see a decrease because now we're going to be resetting the timing. So we shouldn't see because you held the period open. So you had May and all of June. So as far as us doing our projections and trend, we shouldn't expect June to be as high, June 26 to be as high as June 2025.
Good questions. Yes. You can talk there. Sorry, I was. No, the June 2026 is not anticipated to be the same distributed revenue that was. It's forecasted to be a normal June filing period. So what happened last June of 25 was the receipts that were distributed were for almost all of June filing period plus the other portion of May that was cut off on that last distribution. So while we make this transition, I know that we're going to see some more fluctuation a little bit in the next several months, but then evening out to more along the lines on that slide of the revenue distributed comparative to the prior fiscal years. You can see that will probably even out more so along the lines of prior fiscal years. I'm trying to remember which slide that was. I think yes. No, the next one. Yes, that one. Yeah. So that's the revenue that was distributed each period for C-tax. That's sales tax total, not just the C-tax portions. However, what is going to happen is we'll see so July's revenue was slightly down. The August revenue is going to be picking up any prior left on the table July filing periods, plus the full August filing period, and then normalize after that is what is anticipated from the department. I know that there's also the legislative change for the sales tax due date, which is in January. So once that due date change moving up to the 20th is also going to assist the department in critical time for any sort of issues with payments, filings being made without a payment or with a payment that's in submission still and not yet receipted in by the bank. It'll assist the department in working through those so that each month is the fully representative revenue of timely filed payments. Thank you.
Hi, Maria from City of Henderson. For the taxable sales reports, you mentioned there's going to be a difference in the legacy system versus the new one. So will the prior months be updated based on late submissions? So will like the individual months keep changing as you guys get late submissions?
Erica Scott. Yeah, so we will not be reissuing monthly taxable sales statistics, but that fiscal year to date column does total up to any late filed returns. So, and this may be a question posed to you all, if it's good data to receive, if the department issues a taxable sales statistic report that shows that the additional late filings versus that snapshot in time fiscal year to date total, if that's helpful to you all. I'm not sure if that would be something that you would like to receive, or if that's because this report is still that fiscal year to date total.
Yeah.
The old report held that static because it was based on when payments were receipted in that accounting period, whereas this report is now just solely based on what taxpayers are filing up to a certain point.
So if I'm understanding, the monthly numbers, if I was to add them up, would not tie to the year to date?
It does not tie to that fiscal year to date total because of late filers being added into that fiscal year to date total.
Okay, so I guess from my opinion, it would be helpful to have the numbers updated, but maybe.
Well, the fiscal year to date total is the numbers updated. That's what
the individual months, I think, right? So we could see by month what's getting adjusted. So at the year to total, like the individual months added up would equal the year to date total?
I don't know that we would run every single month every month, because that's a whole lot of data. So we would be reissuing monthly reports every month. I don't know that that's logistically viable for the department to do. I think for these taxable sales statistics, the use of it typically is for forecasting, right? Like, and I'm in the same boat with all of you, by the way. I'm using this report just as much. The snapshot of what is occurring economically within each month is, we're trying to align that report with what was captured during that accounting period and what was distributed.
Okay.
Does that help answer? Or
it answers it, but I guess it gets me, it's unusual to have the underlying data not tied to the year to date. When we budget, we do try to do projections by month, and we rely on some of those numbers for that budgeting. That would be the only, I guess, maybe possible concern, but we use the distributions as part of the calculation. So.
Yes, and what I would say to that is the taxable sales statistics up to that certain due date filing point is useful information for that forecast, because it's going to show you the snapshot in time of the due date and who all filed up to that point, and we distributed that revenue. I know there's going to be a small portion of late filers, and that revenue is distributed later on when but filers don't necessarily file late filings the very next month, or so on. And so it's going to land in a very a different time period that we wouldn't be able to pinpoint every taxpayer on when they filed late. What we can do, though, is that fiscal year to date total will give you what the late filers had reported.
Okay. And then I guess just confirmation for all the components of the C-tax, are they all now in the Mint system, or is there still some that are in the legacy system? And do you expect any delays as part of that, if there are?
So the real property transfer tax and the government services tax, those come into taxation's budget account from outside agencies. So that's from our counties, and then excuse me, the DMV sends the government services tax. So we are still reliant on them to send that funding over first before we can do the C-tax distribution.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Gail from the City of Las Vegas. I just want to chime in with Maria. I completely agree that I'm not saying change your taxable sales stat that you send out monthly, but adding another report that actually shows what the true late filers were so that we could say, here's the report for this month, but then also here's what it is just for other trending and other purposes. So maybe not the same report, but another report. I think reporting is something that, again, with any system implementation, it always seems later on, but that's what really impacted us was the reporting and the change in reporting and finding out about that change. So like the one report that I know you're sending to us now where it says of this distribution, so much responds to this month versus the prior month, that definitely helps. So I think it just kind of ties into the same thing on taxable sales. It just gives you another look and another view that would be extremely helpful to a local entity where we're really trying to track what the impact is.
Thank you, Gail. I'm definitely going to take that back to the vendor to see if we can develop possibly once at the end of the fiscal year or timing wise what we can discuss further on timing wise when you would like to see. I think once a year would be reasonable for, okay, at the end of this fiscal year, how many of those filers filed late and what those taxable sales look like for each month that with the late filers.
Yeah, and I mean, if they're putting in the month, I think they, again, it's simple. I'm not in your system, but I just think I don't think it's unreasonable to ask just to get, again, a different report. Don't have the same report, just a whole new report that just for local entities to use for trending on what was reported in for that month, no matter when the payment happened.
So this is Patrick hiding in the corner. I find that this is really interesting and the kind of feedback that we really need for the development of the new system. I think something like this is actually doable. And to kind of summarize what I'm hearing, what we'll take back to the development team is you have your taxable sales of the time period, then you have your late filers, and there's going to be a gap, right? What we're used to is we're looking at the number, we applied that number back to the original number, to the month or the period that it was, right? So if a late filer paid in June for the year before, we're just applying it back to that time period. So we need to create a report that gives us that gap at the end of the year, that then you would be able to take the one number, this was the actual, and then here's what was recovered through AR and everything else, right? And those two numbers should give you what that end of the year total was. Is that correct? So I think that's very doable. We should be able to see that from an analytical perspective. I think it's important on the development side that we track those numbers too, so that you can see what the time period of recoverable funds are. So if you had $1 million in debt that wasn't received, but it takes 6 months to recover that, then we can also put man hours behind that, what that recovery effort looks like. So these are all the types of numbers and analytics that we're looking at in the system anyway, and we just need to build that out. So we will be looking to you guys as we do this for some input, and we can make sure that we're continuously improving that process.
Yeah, this is Quinn from the City of Las Vegas. I think one of the things is the uneasiness of what's in the numbers and not knowing. I think the delinquency in payment is not knowing is that significant to where it would really affect us, like in our numbers. So I don't know what that rate is. You quoted 95 to 98% collection. I don't know like how many of those are coming in a later period. And I'm going to take the chance too for a secondary question because of the cybersecurity event. I'm also wondering what that's doing to reporting and any issues we may have with delinquent payments on that.
No, I don't have that information.
I don't believe it affected reporting at this point. Mint system was not part of the state. So we definitely are in making sure that we aren't seeing any differences in that. I know we brought up earlier that July did not include the RPTT, and so that will then be the later report numbers that we'll be putting into the July.
Yeah, I think the worry was when you went to the state of Nevada website, you couldn't get to anywhere within the website, and were filers able to do their filings. You know, the last time the system went down, we went through the conversion, people actually didn't report and you had to chase them down. So we had that issue with late filing and late payments. So I'm curious if that's also occurring at this point with the system being out of commission.
I will say, and Patrick might know more too on this, we did have an issue with commerce tax for a little bit, which then we went to an outreach team, went out to those taxpayers, had them resubmit, and we have cleared most of that issue that we had. But the cyber attack did not bring our system down so that people weren't able to file. For sales tax, yes. Modified business, commerce, those were affected in the legacy system being up and down, but we did not see it in the sales tax reporting and filing.
Now, that does not mean our system was up, doesn't mean somebody did not take advantage of hearing that the state system was down. So, and just correlating those two things, but we were actually up.
I have a question that's came in on Zoom, and it says, does that mean the precedent has been set with upgrading new system implementation that we don't have to worry about the distribution impacts to the other agencies? And I'm going to ask on Zoom if you could clarify that question. We'll wait to see if that comes through. Also, we received a question about the goal for the department is to have the reporting available within a week of the distributions that go out to the entities. So that's our goal. We're going to get, as efficient as we can, and it is a major part for us to work on to make sure that the reporting is getting to you guys.
Get another response.
No.
And Quinn, I would like to, this is Erica again, just for those of you on Zoom, just to update you on the revenue by filing period for this upcoming distribution. Only roughly 4% of that was for prior filings. And I looked at actually the revenue distributed proportions gives you that delinquency figure. So it's roughly around, and we saw it fluctuate a little bit with some of the earlier months during, implementation, but the highest I saw was about 6%, and then it was ending at 2% again in the revenue distributed by filing period. That report has that information. I will work with, because I actually produced that, so we'll work on producing that monthly. I know it's been very helpful when the distributions were not necessarily tied to one distinct filing period, but it is useful to show that delinquency. So yes, I will work on that.
All right, with no other questions, we really appreciate you taking the time today. We went a little over our hour, but please remember you have resources for the department, and we will be here to try to work out our reporting and make sure that you have all the information you need. So thank you all and have a great day.